grades folks come
Thank
to
you.
Glacier?
Hey, we got a photo finish here with Mr.
They
Carey.
did
We're ready to go.
Tomorrow.
Okay, everybody.
What time?
Now we can start.
Welcome and thank you for coming. Just to read the usual opening comment, this meeting of the Sandy Neck Board is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. In accordance with the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 20, the chair must inquire whether anyone else is recording the meeting, and if so, to please make their presence known. Seeing that nobody has made themselves known, we'll move on. So we'll do the roll call. We'll start with Rich.
Rich French.
Bill Carey.
Bill Monroe.
Renee King?
Pete Sampo.
Maureen Piccioni. Donna Bragg.
And Tom Wood. Okay, we'll act on the minutes from April?
April.
Right, yeah, no, I know we missed a meeting in here.
Looks good. I'll make a motion to accept as submitted.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried, thanks. Just a couple things under notes from the chair. Just a reminder that next month is, we have a speaker that's going to be with us. For those of you who weren't at the last meeting, Zach Mertz, who's the CEO of New England Wildlife Center up in Weymouth, and also obviously is heads up as part of that the Cape Wildlife Center, which is in Barnstable, and is, effectively the theme of the discussion is going to be something around the hospital for Sandy Neck, and he's going to be talking about the center, how it operates, what they do. Actually, when you get into it, it's pretty remarkable. They have thousands of patients every year in that place, just on the Cape. So it's a pretty interesting operation.
Place.
And I think he's possibly going to be here with a special guest as well. He'll be bringing along. So I think just if there's any way you can make sure you make that meeting, I'd appreciate it, because to get somebody like Zach's scheduled and for him to take the time to be here. He's a very good speaker. If any of you have ever heard him, but it would be really nice if we had a full board attending the June meeting, when Zach is here. So let's try to make it. We'll make it. Okay, that was my only notes. Let's see. So correspondence. Anything from you? The only correspondence I had was, I guess I might as well get into it now. I did send letters to both the Eagle Scouts. Jack was actually being inducted, I think, this last weekend on Saturday at 10th. And
Your letter was read to the assembled guests.
And Grayson, I think, was June 1st, was going to be inducted on June 1st. So they both got a letter from the board. And I got responses from both Jerry Hickey, who is Grayson's father. You'll probably remember that his older brother Carter came to us with a Boy Scout project several years ago, and is also an Eagle Scout, which is pretty impressive. And also heard from Robin Bett. Is it Bett? Is that how you say it? Beat. Jack's mother, who was also appreciative of the letters. So I think these are great projects. It's so refreshing to see young people these days getting involved in these kind of things, that are real contributions to the community and require a lot of, planning and commitment to delivering what they promise, which is a good trait to develop at a young age. So look for more of them to come. So that's the correspondence. So
Thank you for writing that letter. I thought both letters were really well done.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I try to make them as personal as I can. It's but they deserve their recognition. Is a incredibly powerful
Big deal.
thing. I'll just tell you a quick story, why it hit me. Years ago, I was a vice president of distribution for the United States in this business, so I had thousands of trucks and rail cars and everything else all over the U.S. that I was running. And I used to tend to write. I had thousands of drivers. Okay, so one day I wrote a letter to a guy in Maine. He'd had an accident. He had stopped, or someone else had had an accident. He had stopped to help them, and it took me 10 minutes to write him a letter. Okay. 3 or 4 years later, I'm in a big meeting where we had a bunch of drivers who were inputting on specifications for trucks and stuff. And the subject of recognition came up. And this driver said, pulls out his notebook, goes in the back, and he pulls this letter out. He said, this is recognition. He said, 4 years ago, Mr. O'Neill wrote me this letter. I tell you, I almost fell over. Because the simplest act.
Right.
I remember someone telling me once when you get into a senior job, your words weigh a ton. And you don't realize how important it is, you know, so I think when these guys do these kind of projects, or anyone, you know, it's a really powerful thing to do, to try to make sure you take that 10 minutes to, you know, to write the letter and recognize what they've accomplished. So I'm happy to do it. I think as a board, we should, you know, we'll continue to do that. It's important. Okay, so staff report.
Staff report, short and sweet. We are now in summertime hours.
We're really busy. That's what's happening.
We are really busy. Actually, everything is going well. Sales of the permits are very robust. Yesterday was an unbelievable day for Mother's Day because it was 70 degrees and the entire world was at Sandy Neck. So daily, the gatehouse hours are 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. We are helping everybody get their permits. If they need help, they're coming to the gatehouse, calling us, whatever. ORV Beach, open 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Campfires are allowed at 7 p.m. Yay, everybody's been excited about that. This is the most important thing I can tell anybody. Speed limit on the off-road vehicle beach is a strict 5 miles an hour. We have a lot of shorebirds, and we will not let one get squished. So we want to make sure that everybody understands that. New merchandise is at the gatehouse. So I brought a sampling. You guys can all look it over. We sold a ton of it yesterday. I cannot even tell you. It was crazy. And we now have the portable toilets on the beach for the off-road vehicle folks, which is like super, super cool. Now it's going to pop their upcoming events. The 15th, we have the spring flora and fauna hike from 10 to noon. Free hikes. These are free. Everybody would meet at the gatehouse and we'll get them out there. And I'm not sure if Nina's going to lead it or if Anne Marie's going to lead it, but you'll learn all about the flora and fauna of Sandy Neck.
Donna, how for viewers that might be wondering about the challenge in that walk or hike, is it a...
Okay, it's considered, any hike on Sandy Neck is considered a strenuous hike because you're walking usually on the marsh trail through deep sand. We encourage everybody that is going to come to bring some water, some bug spray, and sunscreen because you want to be prepared. The staff is available. If anybody has an issue, we take care of it. We want everybody to have a good time. But just remember, you're walking through deep sand. No sandals, no flip-flops. Wear, you know, like hiking boots or sneakers. Something closed-toed.
Quick question.
Sure.
On Channel 5 tonight, they were talking about ticks.
Ticks,
Okay?
yes.
And again, you mentioned the issue of bringing bug spray.
Yep.
Well, you ought to think about, you know, something that will take care of
Right.
root ticks.
I will tell you, the former county entomologist gave us, the permethrin is your best bet.
Right.
You spray it on your clothing, not while your clothing's on you. You spray it on, and you can put your clothes back on when the spray is dry. It's the same chemical base as what they use to treat head lice, but it's a little bit stronger. The ticks will die within 20 seconds. So even walking dogs, if you want to help the dogs, you spray a bandana, let that dry, put it around the dog's neck, and the permethrin will stay on your clothes. It's good for like 6 washings. Spray your boots. Very important. The ticks are severe this year. We've already had our guy out spraying, and I think we're going to amp up the spraying this year. He uses all natural things, you know, because it's Sandy Neck. But we already had reports of ticks out there, so we want to make sure that everybody stays safe. The best way to avoid them is don't walk in the woods. Walk on the path. So that's my tick update for right now. On the 22nd,
Just a question, does
Sure.
DEET work or not?
it does. The permethrin is your best. It's 100% everything. And to keep like gnats and everything, get Picardian, which is like a companion to the permethrin. Picardian is a very light cream. You can put it right in your ears, around your eyes. It's not terrible. That keeps all the gnats and even greenheads away. They don't like it.
Greenheads?
Yes, the dreaded greenhead flies.
That'll be in the minutes. So we
That'll
can-
be in the minutes. It is everybody. Yeah,
This is,
I'll
I
make
think,
sure.
the first stuff
We
for
get
ticks.
it by the quart. For Sandy Neck, we do, and we have the spray for the permethrin too, but we get the Picardian because, you know, at night those little gnats get people and everything, and the mosquitoes, so Picardian is really good. But, you know, you're out in the wilderness, think ahead, especially with the water, especially with the sunscreen. Okay, we're gonna go on to the ORV 101 for beginners. It's open to all. We had that last year, we started it, it was wonderful. Just email me at the gatehouse and we'll sign you up for it. So it's great, we run you through, we have a lot of folks that are new to doing, off-road vehicle. We want to make them comfortable with it. We show them how to air down what equipment to have, how to air down their tires, how to air back their tires, and to make them comfortable with the knowledge that they've got everything that they need in order to go out and have an enjoyable time instead of like, oh no, I'm driving over sand, what should I do? Because a lot of people don't even know about how to shift into four-wheel drive. So it doesn't matter. Men, women, kids, come on down and we'll take care of you.
What time does that start again on?
That, I believe, is 5:30 to 7.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Do you discourage folks such as ones that may have Subarus or something like that are touted as all-wheel drive?
I can assure you that Subarus are golden on Sandy Neck.
Oh, good.
We have no trouble with Subarus. They may seem a little bit lower, right, than most cars. Knock on wood, we just don't get them stuck. And they really, really handle well. There's not any, I have a guy with a all-wheel drive, I think it's I don't know what it is, a Frontier or something that wants to try it, but it's got a kind of a 4-ish wheel. I said, look, you've got clearance. We have 2-wheel drive vehicles out there. That's going to be up to you because he has the clearance. But we don't really discourage unless something is super. I always tell folks, you got a brand new vehicle. Look under it. Is something hanging down? Possibly a bad idea if your muffler is like 2 inches from the ground.
Yeah.
But yeah, they seem to work well. Subarus are great. So the 101 ORV 101 course would be fabulous, and everybody who went last year really enjoyed it. Now this is great. So the public terrapin release is on June 6th at 4 p.m. We take a bunch of terrapins out there for folks that aren't in the school system or whatever, and they get to walk down the marsh trail and help us release the terrapins, which will be a lot of fun. And then we have in the 621 we have the summer flora and fauna hike. Everything changes on Sandy Neck drastically. You've seen it, we're in our spring, everything's getting 9,000 different colors of green. And then in the summer, she's really vibrant. So that'll be from 10 a.m. to noon. And I encourage you guys to look over the merchandise, and that's my end of my staff report.
So on the fauna, what type of fauna are you hoping to find?
What is fauna? No, somebody asked me that today. Fauna is the animals. So, we have some amazing, the big, huge, ginormous rabbits out there. Of course, we have fox, we have coyote, we have, deer, lots of deer. But I have seen recently on the Marsh Trail a fisher.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And it's amazing. And then the bird life right now, the willets are home, so they're doing their crazy willet call and everything, and the osprey and stuff. So there's so much to see out there. We're having a couple of guys that are doing. They're looking for Fowler's toad eggs and Fowler's toads, which are rare, I guess. And he showed me. He was so excited he came back to the gatehouse because he was in one of the swales that had water in it, and he had the spotted salamander eggs. He got pictures of it. In the egg mash, you could see the spots. I was like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. So there's a ton of stuff out there. Turkeys, there's a ton of stuff out there. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Skunks, raccoons.
Yeah.
Raccoons, yeah.
Is it turkey?
We know where
hunting
they live.
season yet? I
It
heard
is.
gunshots out there.
It is one of my
Where they just-
favorite hunters who's very ethical, got a 23-pounder. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard gunshots today. I was like, looking at my list.
What
Plenty. I was like,
is it?
no,
What is it?
no. Turkeys. We're turkeys. There you go. Okay. Old business, I'll just mention under conservation, I'll give Pete a chance to talk if he has anything else to say. But in terms of the project, some news, the bids are open. I think Nina might probably mention that last time for the project. The bid submission date was extended to May 15th. So this week, and at last glance, I think there were something like 27 companies that had taken the paperwork to at least consider submitting a bid. Also, the National Fish and Wildlife has also released a coastal resiliency grant opportunity. We have submitted a pre-approval submission to them. They then will select from the options that submitted these pre-approval applications, and then select from that projects that they would want to look at in more detail in a formal approval process. So this is pending. That process is pending. Obviously, we won't know until probably June whether we're in the running for one of those grants, and that would be in addition to the CZM grant, which is kind of still outstanding. So that's a hopeful additional opportunity for some funds for the project. So that's good news. Okay, Pete, did you have anything else you want to talk about in terms of?
Not so much about conservation. I've been going out to the halfway house with kids almost once a month now through this spring, and I always go out there ahead of time, make sure there's no raccoons inhabiting the place before I take the youngins out. But what I'm noticing with some of the really high tides we've had this late winter and spring, we've had some really high moon tides, that we are eroding around some of our culverts. And there's sort of this depression. So on the biggest culvert, we've got this massive cement holding the rock stuff in. What are our options for the quote smaller pipes though that are overflowing and eroding some of our cobble off of that road top?
Well, perfect. Thank you for asking. We had one of the culverts is in really rough shape all around it, like you said, is eroding. I can't quote the price of what it would cost. Nina gave me a roundabout figure of having to take, first of all, getting permitting, having to tear it up, having to put a new culvert in, having to do all that stuff. She said around 150,000.
Okay,
So
potential other options.
well, that we're gonna have to look at. So we're past our time for the road work that is done, right? And we have to stop everything April 1st. What we did as a stopgap to help the property owners that are out there is we got a whole bunch of big reflectors and put it out so to stay right in the middle there.
Yeah.
But it was actually Kathleen Brissette that sent Nina, Emery, myself, the pictures, and I was like, holy moly. But we're going to have to look at some options. I mean, I don't think we have 150 grand in our pockets right now.
So my thoughts are that, and I ended up getting down into the culvert the other day while the kids were out swimming out in the front beach.
Yeah.
And I was throwing the rocks, the rocks this big, from inside that washed over, throwing it back up on top. But if you're driving down a bunch of wood pilings or something like that, that has the potential
Of holding it.
of holding
it,
it.
yeah.
Holding it.
All right, well, we'll right now.
Okay, nothing now, but
No,
yeah.
but right now, our complete focus is on the plovers.
Yes.
And the habitat for conservation plan, because it's incredible. If you guys have not been down to Sandy Neck and take a look at our carnival, you've got to. And maybe next month in our little presentation we do staff report, we'll get some pictures of it, and it's amazing. People are like, so is there a party? Yeah, it's an anti-plover party. We're trying to move them on, but I mean that has consumed. We're still very short-staffed because the staff hasn't come in yet. The kids aren't completely out of school yet, so it's been a all-day thing, raking and making sure that we're doing the right thing and monitoring. A lot of people hours has gone into that.
150,000, is that based on the town cost of doing it?
I'm not sure, but that might have been, again, don't quote me on it because it might have been just a number that she's aware
Well, what I'm
of.
thinking of is that even if you don't do the whole project, the guys in the DPW must deal with this kind of stuff constantly, you know, around town.
Yeah.
There must be some ideas they
Right,
could,
I like what you were saying, even if it's not wood, what if we put steel
something
along the
to just
side,
keep it
bang it
from
in
going
there?
any further, you
But
know.
we're gonna have to take a good look at that. So much is happening, so much is coming up. But right now, we can't, you know, I like your idea of just throwing the rock. So will we have staff?
My students recognized, thought it was me too, even though they didn't see me doing it. Who else is gonna be silly enough to get down in the mud and throw rocks up on top?
Well, you know, we were just made aware of it. And so we are definitely aware of it. We want everybody to stay safe. I mean, the culvert itself will not collapse.
Right.
Which one is this that has the issue?
It's before the halfway
Before
house.
the halfway house.
No, actually, there's
No,
one
it's
right
right
after.
after.
it.
It's
Right
right
after,
after
the first one
that.
after.
The first one after
By
it.
caps.
And you, right, right.
Between,
Yes.
between the halfway house and Chris Capps?
Yes,
Right.
yeah. So it's
That's been,
a problem.
For a while.
yeah, for years.
So my question now
Nothing,
is.
there's nothing new about that edge there. I mean, that's the way it's
Well,
been
it's
for years.
degraded even more, Bill. It really has. Like Pete was saying, some of those big moon tides and stuff. I mean, I've sat on the top of that just watching the tide going, wow. It's just, you know, it's to the top and just, you know, flowing right under where you're at. So we'll have to look at it. And if anybody comes up with a good idea, something that we need manpower or whatever, we will do what we have to do to try to make it happen. But don't forget, if we disturb too much, we have to start getting permits and more permits and more permits, so.
I mean, it's actually, you know, you think about the project we're doing, which involves the gatehouse area, which is flooded, you know, it's worse as you go out that marsh trail. You know, the further you go out, probably the worse it is in terms of risk, right? Because you're closer to the high.
Yeah,
to the high
it
tides
actually
coming
depends.
in.
In the, beyond Trail 4, the trail, Marsh Trail's a little higher for the most part. So there's not a lot of watery spots really beyond Trail 4, and some that used to be watery spots out of what I would call Kelly's Corner by the shell fishing beds. The town's done such a good job over years with, you know, building up the rock base and
Right.
all that. So some of those things that would, you know, 20 years ago, that corner there by the shellfish beds would, on a 11-foot tide, would have water in it for a week.
Wow.
And now it might not even get in there, you know, or if it does, not enough to cause a transit problem.
Yeah, I think part of the problem too is the blowouts with the marsh, the head of the marsh where the ditch lines are on the Barnstable Harbor side. We've seen over the years, we've seen the marsh a little bit receding and we've seen those ditch lines open up. And then the water has more of an opportunity just to go blasting through.
I'm really surprised that right by caps there, that little hump, which is the roadway,
Right.
you know, that in some of those tides that it hasn't just blown over that whole little. Yeah, no,
Don't tempt
I
them,
know.
yeah, please, yeah.
Renee,
So
did
we
you
are
have
aware.
something?
I mean, I just had a very basic
Sure.
question, always the philosophy of pay now versus pay later. So I understand April has begun and you can't do much to it, but what we mitigate now, will it help to keep the cost from being exponential? If we're talking about, you know, approximately 150 now and we delay, could it?
It's not even the cost right now, it really is the timing.
Okay.
We're under, you know, strict regulations about when we can, I mean, we've had to do, when we've had the big blizzards in 2018, we had to ask for an extension so we could get the guys out there to fix the marsh trail a little bit.
Right.
But it is not just, hi, this is Nina Coleman, I'm gonna make a phone call. No, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. Because again, we've just been aware of it, we haven't really had time to go explore it. There's a couple of people I wanna talk to from the town and say, what do you think?
Okay.
What would be our best way of doing this? So hopefully it would not involve taking out the culvert and starting over again, you know, so, yeah. I know, not good.
Well, but you can let us, maybe next meeting, give you more information, some options for just stopping it, or, you know, tolling the damage for a period of time until they can get to it more fully, but, okay. Did you have anything else, Pete? Just just generally under public outreach, Bill, anything going on? Do we have any more scout projects coming? There's one, I think, looking for a project or was talking about, Jerry said, I think.
Do we know who that is?
I don't know the young man's name, but I do know that he's contacted us. One of our issues right now is it would have to be a project that that they could do this summer, because all bets are off when the fall starts,
Yeah.
because that's when we start our kind of stuff. So everything is geared right now, and actually, Renee, if you'll speak to what's going on tomorrow at Sandy Neck, which is really huge. So we've had a lot of our energy going into that, Nina and especially Anne Marie. But I would like Renee to speak to that. So if we can fit him in for a project, I've got a couple of ideas. I know Anne Marie does. We're going to get back to him after we get through this tomorrow.
Let me find out who that is, and
Yeah.
I'll chat.
Yeah.
Like 50 scouts out there to repair the culvert?
Yeah. So Renee, tell them what's happening tomorrow.
It's a really amazing thing. I'm sorry I didn't bring the artwork. If I will bring the artwork next meeting. So Nina has been working at Hyannis West with the sea turtle, and Rotary has a Rotary Rewards reading program. So we partnered this year. And so not only have we enriched the students' lives with books, we have a lot more books about sea turtles and things at Sandy Neck. So at the home show this year, we had the students who have the turtle do an amazing art project. So in this video, Nina is interviewed and she talks about the program. And part of the program is that students are getting ready to go visit Sandy Neck. And this is kind of a wonderful experience because they're third graders and they will be graduating out of that part of their elementary school life. But to have a outing like that, for some of the kids, it'll be their first experience. And so we hope to do more of this. The partnership is just working out really great. There's a lot of energy in the school. And Nina will actually be coming to Rotary this Thursday just to share the story. And if you know anything about Rotary, we raise a lot of money. We raised over $100,000 gross for the home show. That money goes back to the community, so we're hoping to take some of the funds and feed this program over, because you have to make sure you have the funds for the next round. But there's so much excitement in that
Wait till
school.
they see what they're going to get themselves into, because not only is it about the diamondback terrapins and the plovers, but the flora and fauna. There will be 4 stations that these kids will be visiting. We have our jet ski all polished up for them to see. There'll be a talk about the rescue that is done on Sandy Neck. We'll have all of our cool toy vehicles out there for them to take a look at and stuff. Anne Marie, I cannot say enough about how she has worked herself to the bone on this one. And I think they're going to love it. And I hope you're coming.
I'm going to get there. I won't be, it starts at 9, but I'll
Starts at
definitely
9, yeah.
be there. I just can't, it's really an exciting thing. And we're going to need these students. They grow up really fast. So when we're looking for summer help and we're looking for, the lifeguards and all that things, 3rd grade is a great age to get a kid really passionate about what they want to do.
Stuff.
It's going to be fun. Hopefully we'll be taking a lot of pictures and, I mean, they've got it all down to a science of what they're going to do tomorrow with these kids. Those kids are going to really enjoy this.
And I would encourage anyone on the board, if you get a chance, to just let them know you're coming, to go to the elementary school just to see the excitement. Our final book giveaway, I believe it is on Wednesday, June the 11th, and I will also push that out to our distribution list. It's very simple. You come in for an hour, you read a book. Our books will be about all the great things at Sandy Neck, of course, and the kids just gravitate to it. So
You should let us know that. I think I certainly wouldn't mind doing that.
I will definitely. I just didn't think.
Yeah.
Remind me, the artwork is amazing. So the art teacher had them do turtles, and again, they were displayed at the home show. So everyone got to see them. Nina was interviewed, and we just had a really good videographer because we've talked about this, telling the story. We have done so many things, just capturing that story and
That's great.
getting it out.
Excellent.
So for tomorrow's, going to be at Sandy Neck?
Yep.
They're taking a trip.
And it's, so there'll be buses going there?
Buses from the Hyannis West Elementary School
Oh,
over.
wow, okay. And it starts at 9:00.
Yeah,
That's
It's
our
gonna be
viewing
exciting.
audience.
yeah, they're gonna have so much fun. They really are. I can't even tell you. I wanna go play and do some of the stuff they're doing.
That's great. Well, that was one of the things we talked about a while ago, trying to get more exposure to the rest of the community, to Sandy Neck, particularly parts of the community that are not as likely, to be exposed to it, and especially at a young age, it's critical.
And I think for you, maybe next year, having the high school students there, because it's
And
just
they see the older kids doing it too.
because they just see the older kids, they're much more like, they're really cool to them.
Yeah.
And
Are you saying we're not cool?
yeah, we're cool too. But they're cooler.
Or not.
But what's so great about it, it just builds such a wonderful esteem in our high school students, It's not hard, it's not easy being a high school student today. So just to be there and having the young kids, so let's try to work that in next year.
That's great.
That's great.
Because they can often get turned off at an early age if they don't think something is cool, if they don't think an older kid would do it. So I think that continuum, whatever, is a good idea, is a great idea. That's really cool. Good job.
Well, Nina, she's fabulous. Again, I'll send you the video, and she shined like a bright star.
Well, it takes a team, so. Okay, so I kind of gave you an update on the configuration project, so I don't think we have anything else on the agenda. One thing I just want to mention is a while ago, we talked about, I think it was in January, I talked about board effectiveness and thinking about how we, and in fact, the town is doing a review on the whole issue of board and committee effectiveness. I would like to carve out some time. I'm thinking maybe in August, because we have, July has a couple things on the agenda already. And August is kind of blank at this point, although sometimes August is a meeting that doesn't happen. But to really have a discussion about it, and I said I would put an outline together. I did get a note from Maureen, which was really good to kind of establish some frameworks for things for us to talk about. It goes back to the study that was done in 2003, which kind of set out the sort of the strategic responsibilities for Sandy Neck, and which was really what we used to kind of construct these three discussion areas. So that's important. I don't think any of those really change in terms of an overall mission, but I think that how we do it is what we have to think about. How do we? I mean, things that we just got done talking about are an example of expanding our ability to increase the outreach. And I think I think it should be something that we talk about as a group, because there's a lot of ideas here that we can start to formulate about how we do that. I mean, some of the things like Maureen mentioned, and we talked about briefly, was just the economic side of things. Are there things we could do that could raise more money? And I know there's some nuance around raising money for an enterprise account in the town, but there might be some other options other than selling merchandise, for example, which is obviously, I think when and Pete and Rich, some of you guys have been on the board for a long time. I seem to remember that the amount of merchandise we sold back in the old days was really pretty minimal.
Yeah.
And now it's like thousands of dollars of rep. Would you say yesterday was $1,000 or something?
Yesterday was $1,000 merchandise day.
I mean,
Just out of the gatehouse. I wasn't running at all. No.
That's the brand of Sandy Neck.
Yep.
The power of that brand. So are there other options, for taking advantage of that brand? Because this one is clearly working. The more ideas we get around things like that, whether it's public outreach, whether it's economic sustainability, whether it's conservation, we've talked a little bit about certainly the project. It's just, in my mind, the project has kind of consumed us for the last 4 or 5 years, you know, let's face it. I mean, yeah,
I was gonna say,
well,
yeah, it's
yeah,
been a
more
while.
than that.
More than that.
So it's kind of I'm just thinking ahead as a board and thinking, at some point, that project is gonna be done. And what I really don't want to happen is to have us just going back to, you know, approving rules once a year and looking at fees and, you know, because I don't think that's, you know, really bringing a lot of contribution to just be kind of going through those sort of processes. I mean, that's important, but it's not. So I'm trying to think about, you know, and I'd like all of you to think about, what do we do after the project? Maybe that's a good way to pose the challenge. You know, what are things that we could be doing, maybe still under the headings of our strategic missions, but you know, what else could we be doing as a board to increase our contributions to the town, to Sandy Neck, and make the board, you know, have the board continue to be relevant in this day and age? Because 2003 was, you know, in these days and age, 20 years ago is a long time. You know, there was virtually no computers then, if you think about it. You know, it was really new. So you think about how far we've progressed in those 20 years. So now we have AI and God knows what's. I listened to a discussion yesterday about AI, but it's called AGI, which is this new sort of concept of it becoming a human, where it can do human tasks.
But I think the balance with all of that being a technologist is it gives much more emphasis on being unplugged. And I think that what we're doing here is allowing multiple generations, young and old, to really be unplugged, especially the young students. And I think that more people are starting to realize that technology is great, but too much of anything is not good for you. And
Except
so
for outdoors is
and
always good.
I think that that's where, you know, especially families and young folks being exposed and being someplace where they're off the grid, right? And I think tomorrow is going to be an amazing opportunity to see what so many kids are missing today by being so connected. So I think our unplugged message, right? And you see that with your students when they're out, right? I mean,
Well, I'll bet every kid tomorrow has a phone with them.
well, I think that if I can do any influence, it probably should be kept on the bus or not with them.
Well, they want to take
Big
pictures.
difference.
There's a big difference, and if we've missed that opportunity, then we will go back to it because you don't see that. Your kids are not. I mean, they're outdoors, right?
They're not allowed.
Right.
They're just not allowed.
But see, that's key, and I think
Yeah.
it really is a great opportunity to have one of your students come to our meeting and talk about the impact that it has had on them. Again, reaching out to their peers, being unplugged.
That's cool.
And I love Donna your pictures and your messages because that's what I gravitated to. I was one of those folks. 30 years, I was plugged. And I can really speak to the value of being unplugged.
The other person you need to get with is Mr. Monroe over there. I think it would be fabulous to have some of the scouts talk to these
yeah.
kids. I think putting that together, because the one thing that the scouting, it like
Skill.
what Pete does, not only skill, but amazing teamwork. And I think that is something that if we start to inspire these young kids, that teamwork makes the dream work, as they always say. I think it would be a really good idea. So you've got the academic side of it with Pete, and then you've got the hands-on, this is teamwork, use your brains and everything. I think if you got your scouts are willing, I think that would be a
How
really
cool would it
good
be to
thing.
show the kids what the projects they built out there?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Mentorship is key in the whole process, but right now, coming out of COVID, scouting memberships are down across the country, COVID and some other challenges and so forth. So, and a lot of things you mentioned being unplugged. Well, the traditional way that you find new scouts is to go into the schools, and it used to be you'd stuff the backpack with all these flyers, and the parents would have 10 flyers to go through, and oh, this looks like something, and we'll go down there Wednesday night. Well, for the most part now, the schools don't send home paper flyers. Occasionally, if you talk real nice, you can get something going, but you can always put something in what's called the electronic backpack, and my conversation with most parents is they don't know what it is, they don't know how to find it, they've never been to it. So a lot of that stuff can go in there. The challenge right now in scouting is getting the first and the second graders and the third graders, because that's where you really need, you know, most kids start out as a Cub Scout and they go through the more simple
Right.
programs, and then they cross into what's called Scouts BSA now, because it also includes girls. My granddaughter just crossed over. She turned 11, so she's now in that troop. But it's if we can interact the scouts that we have doing projects and their peers with first and second and third graders out there, then that allows the parents to say, "Oh, what is that kid? How come he knows so much?" and all of that.
Well,
We've
couldn't
got
the Eagle
it.
Scout project be, isn't there an Eagle Scout project we're talking about right now that could be that project, working with the kids? That's not building a,
Well, it depends on what
Yeah.
the project is. I mean,
We haven't gotten
you
to
know.
that. We are looking at a timeline right now, but you have the end to the school. You have these kids, these scouts are doing this outside and, you know, as a team and stuff. So bringing those two together to me is a no-brainer. It really is. It's not, and
maybe that could
And
also
one of
be
the
a
things,
scout
one of the
project,
things
but
that we did,
Eagle Scout, yeah.
early on, just to get our footprint into the school, is that they have the after-school program, so the kids that are there. And we were able to be volunteers, and we worked with either homework assignment or reading. So wonder if the scouts had a project, and those kids worked on a project. So that was the way that we, after school, became in school. And it really helped us to be a partner with the school. And I think that that's what it's all about, these partnerships.
Some of these Eagle Scout projects they can be really broad. They don't necessarily have to be, we're gonna go build some birdhouses, or we're gonna put up a pole, or whatever it is you're gonna be. It could be the backbone and the support and the teaching aspect of a field trip,
Right.
you know? I mean,
That's what I'm saying. I
you
mean, I'm
take,
listening, I'm hearing an Eagle Scout project.
you
Yeah, I
take
know.
and a kid could put that together. You know, he's got 10 kids, and you're bringing 100 kids, you know, to the beach on a certain day, and okay, you know, Joe, you're with the Terrapin group, and
Cool.
Harry, you're with the Cougars, or whatever it is, and you make them like little patrols, which is a microcosm of how scouting works, and they work together as a small group, whether they're doing a task or whether they're playing a game or whatever it is, and you run them through stations, you know. So this group would go to this kid and do his station, and then they go to this kid and do their station and all that, and they get exposed to, you could do some knot tying, you could do some rudimentary first aid, all those kinds of things. So
Well,
that would be,
sounds-
that would be an excellent project.
yeah, that
And
sounds
between the
like right
three of
on
you,
with that.
There's an
yeah.
Eagle Scout project.
Yeah,
There's a
There's a
project.
project right there. Yeah, no, I
very
love
cool.
that.
I can
idea.
put some money to it.
Well, and that's sometimes the challenge with, and one of the things that's so attractive about some of the Sandy Next projects that we've done over time is that Sandy Neck has been fortunate to have a gift account, and to a lot of times be able to buy the materials that are necessary. You have to go buy pressure treated lumber, that's a fair amount of money. And if you don't have a source, if your sponsor or organization does not have a source and is not willing to or able to assist in that fashion, then you've got to go raise the money to buy the materials, and that's a whole level of complexity, which can be difficult. It's a good learning tool sometimes for a kid to have to do that, but you know,
Well, this sounds like a relatively low resource, you know, in that respect.
it,
you know,
it actually
for a
would.
project.
It wouldn't be a lot of money, you know, in something like that. I mean,
I love it. I
yeah,
just
we'll
love it.
we'll float it out there and see if we can get some kid or group of kids to.
Yeah, I think in the note, one of the notes
To
I
bite
got
on
from
it.
Jerry, he mentioned there was a scout looking for a project, is my understanding of
We
that.
have the email from, I just don't.
Yeah, I just sent a text and I didn't get a response. I don't think. But.
Yeah.
So it looks like there might be somebody that's interested.
We'll see. I mean, you know, and certain projects are going to be, depends on who the kid is, and you know what his skills are and what his level of maturity is, and
And their interest.
all of that. So
But it is, this introduction to what scouts do is brilliant. And, you know, and Scouts teaching these kids is brilliant, and they're outside and they're doing so. We had some group of Scouts, and it might have been one of your group, that one of the things that they had to do is they had to get a badge in fire making. So we allowed them to go out during the day on the beach and learn how to do it safely. So they took the Scouts out there and they learned how to, start a fire and how to put it out and how to tend it and all that stuff. And they were really vested in that because it was a hands-on experience. And I think the hands-on stuff speaks volumes, because everybody's brain is so full of words that we read all the time that sometimes you just want to get your hands on it and, do it. And I think the scouting is really good that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How many people do you know that can, if things went wrong, could actually start a fire?
Right.
Not many.
I'd be hanging with him.
I
Yeah.
mean,
I'm going to Bill's
it's
cabin.
a lost art, for,
Yeah.
even things like finding food in the woods and things like that.
Yeah.
People don't have any clue, So scouting and things like scouting are really important. And the younger you get the kids involved, the better. Because once they get older, it's much harder to break in, to
I see a
their
project.
agenda.
It's not
And
cool.
it's not cool, and all that,
Right.
so I'm gonna put an agenda together, or an outline for discussion in probably August, okay? Then I was thinking, I'll get Mark, I would like to have Mark Ellis come, so maybe that's a great time, the project's gonna be bubbling. We can have our discussion in August, maybe have Mark here for September meeting, and I'll see if I can get that lined up. And with his schedule, which I know is kind of crazy, so if it isn't September, we'll move it out a month. I'm just looking at our calendar, which is discussions in September, regulation changes in October, Sandy Neck report in November, so it gets a little busy at the end of the year, but we should be okay. So I'll try to get that organized for, in the meantime, I could distribute your letter to everybody so they can see what you wrote, some thoughts you had, if you don't mind, and that might trigger some thinking on everybody else's part too, just in terms of things we could be talking about and doing to, again, just think of it in terms of what's our contribution to the town? What do we, and to Sandy Neck, and that framework is the way to think about it, I think, and make sure that we certainly, I think, had a pretty significant one over the last number of years with the project. We spent a lot of time on it, a lot of effort, and it seems like it's happening, which is really pretty cool. So now it's kind of like what's next for the board, for the next few years.
Vacation.
Yeah. Well, it will be. It's going to be a rough year, let's face it, for you guys particularly.
Yeah.
So okay. Other than that, is any members of the public like to say anything? No. Well, thanks for coming as always. I'll get someone to make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everybody. See you next month.